And welcome. You're watching NewsX with me, Devika Chopra. Top focus right now is the big rescue by the Indian Navy, which has managed to recapture a ship from Somali pirates off the Indian coast in an operation that lasted over 40 hours. The Malta-flagged bulk carrier MV Ruen was hijacked by the pirates 3 months ago on 14th December 2023. This was the very first time since 2017 that any cargo vessel had been successfully boarded by Somali pirates. Now the Indian Navy has conducted a dramatic rescue operation in the high seas termed Operation Sankalp. The Indian Navy has left no stone unturned to secure and curb terror in the Indian Ocean region. INS Kolkata carried out the interception of the pirate ship nearly 2,600 kilometers from the Indian coast. Collaborated actions were augmented by INS Subhadra, a P-8I maritime patrol aircraft, and Marine Commandos. A C-17 aircraft of the Indian Air Force executed a precision airborne drop of 2 boats carrying the Navy officials. Then the Marine Commandos successfully cornered and coerced all 35 pirates to surrender and ensure the safe evacuation of 17 crew members. Amongst those rescued, 7 are from Bulgaria, 1 from Mongolia and 9 from Myanmar. Meanwhile, the Indian Navy is now bringing the 35 Somali pirates into its custody to India for prosecution. The effective anti-piracy operation has drawn praise from Bulgaria's foreign minister, who has expressed her gratitude to India. As the world now lauds our Marco's mettle, we ask if this daring rescue is testament to India's resolution and endeavour to secure the Indian Ocean region. We take this conversation forward. I have with me Master Veena Sikri. We also have with us Captain Alok Bansal. I also have with me Air Vice Marshal Ashok Kumar. And we have with us Major General Dhruv Katoch. Let me begin this conversation with, if I may, Major General Dhruv Katoch, I'd like to understand firstly from your perspective, sir. A major operation undertaken by the Indian Navy, hugely successful, now being lauded by the world. Is this now truly a testament to India's importance as well in securing the Indian Ocean region, which is something that we have been discussing for a very long time now as far as securing the Pacific, Indo-Pacific is concerned, and the role that India now needs to play? Is India now proving that it is more than capable of securing the high seas?
Thank you, Devika. Before I start, I think let me make a statement. I think this has been an outstanding operation carried out by the Indian Navy. It is also an outstanding example of inter-service cooperation because both the Air Force and the Navy were co-opted into this operation. It was brilliantly executed right from the word go, and which has led to the rescue of the ship as well as of all the crew members and the arrest of these Somali pilots. Now, the Prime Minister has consistently been saying that that we will guarantee the safe movement of passage in the Indian Ocean. That is the task which he has ascribed to India. Now there have been doubts raised: can India do it by itself? The question is, India will do it in cooperation with other countries, but wherever it is deployed, it will do it unilaterally, the way it has been shown now. But for the free and open navigation, other countries are also involved because that becomes a very large task in the Indo-Pacific. Here, when we are looking at the situation, the Indian naval ship was near at hand. It came to the rescue, and over a period of 48 hours or so, the operation was successfully executed. I think it sends 2 important lessons. One is to the world community that the Indian Navy and the Indian nation both are there in the Indian Navy and the Indian state both are there in the Indian Ocean, and we will do everything in our power to ensure free and open navigation of the seas. I think the second message is also important. This is the message to the pirates of Somalia that you can't get away like this. The Maritime Treaty has been signed a year back, and based on that treaty, we were actually able to get these fellows, and now they're coming back to India where they will be tried. I think this is a very important facet because it is a deterrent. Earlier, when the Indian Navy had actually, this was a few months back, we had actually rescued some hostages. The pirates got away. this time the pirates have been apprehended, and that I think is going to send a very strong message to the pilots, to the Somali pirates, that this sort of activity is unacceptable and there will be a punishment to it. So that deterrence I think is going to work now. Besides, of course, giving confidence to all the maritime nations in the Indian Ocean that we have a country there, India, which will be there to support you if things go wrong. Devika.
Absolutely. I'll come back to you in just a moment, sir. Let me bring in Captain Alok Bansal as well into the conversation. Captain Alok Bansal, if you could perhaps also shed some light on what it truly requires to carry out this sort of an operation, the extent of what the Indian Navy has now managed to achieve, for which, like I said, and I repeat once again, the world is truly watching and lauding India's efforts in securing the high seas. But if you could perhaps shed some light on what really goes on when such a major operation is undertaken.
See, we need to understand that the operation was an outstanding success because none of the crew members were injured in any way. And this is where the crucial aspect is, because in a big ship like this, which has been taken over by pirates, the possibility of holding these crew member as hostage, when you go for rescue mission, the possibility of a collateral damage always exists. And that is where the professionalism comes. Boarding a ship which is moving at sea from the air or from another ship is an extremely difficult task. And while doing that, disarming heavily armed pirates and ensuring that none of the crew gets injured is, I think, a spectacular success. And I think that is where one has to give credit. So Indian Navy in the recent past has undertaken large number of such missions. We had earlier rescued crew members when pirates had taken over ships. But this is probably the first time when we are taking such a large number of pirates as hostages. And since these pirates fired at a warship, they are easily prosecutable under the Indian Penal Code, and they'll be brought back to India and punished because they tried to fire at a warship, they tried to fire at a drone. So they are in any case liable to be prosecution under Indian Penal Code. In the past, what would happen was that invariably you would leave these pirates after disembarking them at sea because their prosecution under Indian Penal Code was a difficult proposition because they were invariably apprehended outside India's jurisdiction in high seas, and in some cases of prosecution they were let off. So I think in this particular case, I think we want to make an example of them. They are being brought to India and will be prosecuted. This established Indian Navy as the premier naval or maritime force in this particular area, and we have been in the forefront of all sorts of rescue missions that have been done off the Red Sea coast in recent past. And I think Bulgarian Foreign Ministry has actually acknowledged this great effort by Indian Navy because the ship was Bulgarian owned but Maltese, flagged by Malta. It was flying a flag of Malta. It had crew from Burma and Angola besides, of course, Bulgarians. And I think that's what shows the international nature of the shipping corporations. And I think this sort of an operation has established, I think, India's credentials and Indian Navy's credentials in the globe.
Right, absolutely. Captain Alok Bansal, I will bring you back in just a moment. Air Vice Marshal Ashok Sharma also with us, Ashok Kumar, pardon me, with us. I'd like to bring you into the conversation, sir, and just if you could also perhaps shed some light on how difficult such missions truly are and what really does this now send out in terms of a message and signal to the rest of the world as far as the prowess of our forces is concerned in terms of really taking care of the Indian Ocean.
Good afternoon, Devika, and good afternoon to all your viewers. Definitely this particular operation, which has been a very seamless operation by the Indian Navy and the Indian Air Force, has really established, as General Katos has said, that India is in the Indian Ocean, and there shall not be any doubt. There shall not be any sort of misgivings about it. A very interesting fact is that China having such a large navy, they are not able to really sort of control these pirates in the Indian Ocean region. Whereas India, in its own might, has reflected or shown to the world that if anything goes like that, we have all the capability, both in the waters as well in the air, and it can always achieve its strategic targets. It can protect its waters, and if required, we can even go beyond that to help others to secure their assets which are under threat. So that way, this particular operation really reflects on the Indian might, which is over the period is showing across the globe, whether it is joint air exercises or other countries coming in India with conducting exercises here. We are there to understand each other's sort of a point of view, as well as trying to convey our things that India cannot be taken that lightly as it used to be taken earlier. Devika.
Right, absolutely. Let me bring in Ambassador Veena Sikri into the conversation as well. Ambassador Sikri, what do you make of now how the world truly and India's position in it continues to change and evolve, especially with the sort of anti-piracy operations that we've taken up in the recent past? Do you feel that this could possibly also perhaps be used as some sort of a clear leverage point in terms of many nations that continue to be or rather many nations that continue to not want to accept India's importance or give it the sort of importance it deserves, for them to have a clear conversation point, for us to have a clear conversation point with them that look at what we are doing in terms of not only securing the Indian Ocean region for ourselves, but also for the rest of the world. It happens to be one of the most important, one of the most major seas, and just for in terms of even global trade.
Yes, absolutely. I think that the very successful operation conducted by the Indian Navy, first of all, it's a fulfillment of Prime Minister Modi's promise and assurance of SAGAR, SAGAR, security and growth for all in the region. The security that was assured to everybody. We are willing to do the security in collaboration, in cooperation with everybody else. We are willing to provide the security on our own. And that is a very, very signal and important message that has gone out by this extremely successful, brilliantly executed rescue of the MV Ruen and the arrest of the pirates, the Somali pirates, and the absolutely safe return of all the crew. I think it epitomizes also, for example, the India's assured role of Vishwamitra, friend to the world. Do you know when the foreign minister of Bulgaria sent a message to our foreign minister, Dr. Jaishankar, thanking him for his showing? There were 7 Bulgarian pilots on the ship. Our foreign minister's reply was, "This is what friends are for." So this is the very assuring and strong message that has gone out from India to the rest of the world, saying we are there, we are friends to all, and we are willing to exercise our might in keeping with our goals of friendship with all in the world. And I think that the way in which the Indian Navy has come into its own, it was always regarded as a kind of a junior partner in the defense forces, but in the Indian Ocean, in the last few weeks and months, and in this particular operation, so brilliantly executed in coordination with the Air Force. You had the Globetrotters coming in and dropping in parachuting pilots and little rubber jingis. And with all of this, the whole operation went off so smoothly without a single error, without a single weakness or anybody getting hurt on either side. And I think that the world has certainly taken note. The way in which the Bulgarian foreign minister's message came so promptly, and it would have been seen by the entire EU and all the other countries of the North, that we are prepared to keep the Indian Ocean region free and safe for trade and commerce. And this is such a growing threat, not only the Somali pirates, but we've seen further north in the Indian Ocean, the Houthi rebels who have been firing on ships in the Red Sea and firing on ships, UK and USA and other ships. And there too, the Indian Navy has been at its best, coming to the rescue whenever it is needed or whatever it could do. So I think that this entire region now, it is in sharp contrast to what China is trying to do. They talk a lot, but they obviously cannot do very much. And they're never there when they are needed. And when they're there, they're so overpowering to everybody else who wants to seek their help. So I think that this has been a tremendous success for the Indian Armed Forces. This time it was the Navy and the Air Force together. A tremendous success for India's assurances of security and growth for all in the region, and a tremendous success for India's role as Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra, we are going to be a friend, we are going to be a secure friend. We are going to be ourselves, and we are going to be strong enough to help our friends in the region and around the world.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Dhruv Katoch, same question to you, sir. Do you feel that this in somewhere can now be sent out as a strong message and signal to the rest of the world, and also perhaps can be used to push forward on a conversation that we began having a few years ago about the Indo-Pacific, and of course about the Quad grouping as well of the US, Australia, Japan and India. But how do we now bring the momentum back as far as the security of the Indo-Pacific is concerned?
Devika, the way I look at it is, one of the messaging which has taken place is, it has shown to the world India's military capability. Here specifically because we are talking about the Indian Ocean, our maritime capability and our capability by air. Now that has been conclusively shown. This is, in this case, it was spectacularly successful because we captured 35 of the pirates. But earlier also, even when pirates have not been captured, rescue efforts have been undertaken by the Indian Navy, many kilometers away from the shore. So that gives you that gives to the world the it gives to the world the assurance that the Indian armed forces and the political will is there, and the political will is there to execute such missions. Coming down to the Quad. The Quad has also got similar stance, such as that we want free, open, and safe navigation in the Indo-Pacific. Now, as far as the Indian Ocean part of the Indo-Pacific is concerned, I think that is going to be largely left to India to, as far as the free and open and safe passage is concerned. But when we go down to the Pacific side of it, I think the other navies will also get involved to a much larger extent. But the important point here is that as of now, the Quad is not a military, there is no military cooperation as far as the Quad is concerned. So it is not a military aligned, the militaries of the four Quad nations are not aligned in that sense. However, if push comes to shove, even that can take place. But as of now, it is more devoted to other issues like trade, like supply of medicines, etc. When COVID came in, rescue and relief and rescue measures, in HARD missions, etc., and of course in anti-piracy operations. In the Red Sea per se, the Indian Navy is not operating. We are operating on the Arabian Sea. The Red Sea is being looked after by a coalition of America, Britain, and others. But on the Indian Ocean side, we are not part of any coalition. I think these actions have been taken by India as part of its own mission to keep the sea lanes of communication open and free from piracy.
Absolutely. Captain Alok Bansal, the fact, sir, that this was for the very first time since 2017 that any cargo vessel was hijacked by Somali pirates. What do you feel then needs to be, like I said, and pose the same question to Major Dhruv Katoch as well, what do you feel needs to be then in the conversation that needs to be had in terms of looking at the future of securing the high seas? Yes, India is doing an absolutely fantastic job on its own, but the fact that there have been now, in the past few months itself, so many of such incidents that have been reported, why do you think, firstly, that there is a resurgence at this point in time? And is there then a larger conversation that needs to be had in terms of perhaps looking at further support in this region?
See, firstly, this resurgence has come ever since the Houthis have started targeting the shipping, because the attention to a very great extent is diverted towards the Houthi attacks on ships. And I think most of the navies are focused on that particular angle. And as a result, we have seen a resurgence of Somalian piracy. This is the second ship that we have actually rescued this year itself. In January, we had actually rescued Leela Norfolk. Now, I think we need to have a mechanism for providing security in the high seas. And I think India should make the initiative and set up an Indian Ocean policing force. I'm not very enamored by Indo-Pacific, but as far as Indian Ocean is concerned, we are the primary maritime force in this particular region, and we should take an initiative and cobble up a force of like-minded countries to provide policing in the Indian Ocean. I think that would be the first step, because we need to understand, because the pirates are moving away from the coast. In this particular case itself, MV Ruen, it had been hijacked in December, remember. Thereafter, it was taken to Puntland where it was kept for a long time, and now they were taking it out to sea because it was to be used as a mothership from where fast moving boats of pirates would move out and hijack other ships and bring them. This was the ship from where they would start operating. And that is the reason why you had such a large number of pirates in this particular ship. The 25, which could have actually gone into different directions in 2 or 3 boats simultaneously. And that's why this is a big achievement. And I think for lasting peace, we need to have some mechanism by which the ocean space could be policed. And I think as the largest littoral navy in Indian Ocean region, India should take the initiative and try and cobble up a policing force which patrols. Naval ships are slow moving, but we have a huge maritime reconnaissance aircraft fleet. We have other assets which can be conjoined and combined with the ships and which can keep the ocean under surveillance. The moment we get an input, we should be in a position to react and respond and provide succor to the affected part.
Okay. Air Vice Marshal Kumar, same question to you, sir. What do you feel as far as the resurgence of such piracy attempts are concerned? And like I said, India has been doing its duty very well in the past few months. We've heard of so many incidents where the Indian forces have managed to rescue in a very methodical manner many of these ships. But going forward, if there is now a resurgence of such piracy attempts, is there then a larger conversation that needs to be had?
This particular thing, as it was brought out, that Quad countries are concerned about it, but since it doesn't have the military mandate, probably things are still under wraps, and they may take a call sooner or later. And India, on its part, has been conducting such operations in recent past. In February, also we had the similar thing where we had with the Indian Air Force had with the Navy undertook an airborne insertion of special forces by para-dropping inflatable boats and Marcos from Seat 130. This time it was the Globetrotter. Last time it was the Hercules. So these operations are being undertaken. And one more point which I would like to make here, that with all these things which are being on display, in the recent past we had that Bharat Shakti, and otherwise the way we are restructuring our forces, and our economy is growing 3 trillion economy in the coming time, and all these things, to my mind, I make a point out here that we are working towards getting ourselves into the UNSC, and most of these African countries, they are in favor of India getting into the UNSC as a permanent member. So I think we are able to showcase our might, presently military as well as the economic, as well as the political willpower, a political sort of a assertion on the stage. So to my mind, this is going to sum up combined in this scenario, that the Indo-Pacific, and as Captain Alok Bansal has said, more so into the Indian Ocean region, we are there. Devika.
Absolutely. Ambassador Secretary, the last word with you. Another interesting development that has taken this time around, ma'am, is the fact that all the pirates are now being brought back to India for prosecution. How does that really work out, and what path is now being laid in the times to come?
Well, I think that we are showing that when we can flex our muscles at sea, we have geared up our internal civil and penal code structures to match this determination to play our heft, to show our heft on the seas. Now, the recent Maritime Act that India has adopted, the new version of the Indian Penal Code that is there, all these now allow this kind of quick prosecution that will happen for the Somali pirates. After all, they have attacked, they shot down a drone of the Indian Navy. So their attack has taken place by them, and they are fully within the range of India's penal code system to be charged and to be tried. I think that is a very important point. It's a very important showing to the world. That is not like what we used to do previously, that whenever the pirates were caught, they were put onto little boats and left in the open seas. And this was a kind of a self-defeating idea, because then they would be rescued by somebody else and continue their activities. This time we are showing that we want to disarm them once and for all. I would like to also add here that I think that what is happening in the Indian Ocean has to find its reflection on the eastern coast as well. We do know that India hosts the very important Milan exercises, and it was recently the last exercise ended at the end of February, just about 3 weeks ago, in Visakhapatnam, in the port of Visakhapatnam, which is going to be home to the Eastern Navy Command. And it's very important because maritime security is a very significant part of Quad. We may not have any military aspect to Quad, but maritime security is certainly a very important aspect of Quad. And within this concept of maritime security, because free lanes, safe lanes of communication, keeping the lanes of trade and commerce open is a singularly important part of Quad, and the attempts by China to be a bully in the South China Sea and other parts of the Indo-Pacific are not going to be tolerated. So I think that we have to reflect our success in the Indian Ocean with a similar cooperation, either individual or in cooperation with the Quad members, in cooperation with those countries who come for the Milan exercises, to show that in the Indo-Pacific we are equally prepared to exercise our heft and show our strength. This will be India's real goal. We have to do this. We cannot restrain it only to the Indian Ocean. We have to show it on both our coastlines.
Right, absolutely. I thank on that note all of our guests for joining us to take that important conversation forward.